Hello BookTube, I'm Roz and I'm sharing my weekly reads with you in this video. It's not going to be a very long video. I didn't get much reading done this week, but I wouldn't change anything at all. I got to meet my nephew for the first time. My brother's family came down and I got to see Alex. He's only 3 months old and he is the cutest little boy I have ever laid eyes upon. I am completely smitten. And as his auntie, because I know all mothers say that their child is the most gorgeous thing going, but as his auntie, I'm a lot more fair, so you can take my word for it, no bias whatsoever. Actually, he really is gorgeous. But anyway, besides that, I had to get things ready for school, which starts tomorrow. I will be spending my last day of my holiday with you filming this video. Okay, well, no point in talking about it and not getting on with it, so let's get on with it. So the first book I read was The Outsiders by Albert Camus. Now, I went into this blind, which was perhaps for once not a very good idea, because it was only afterwards, while looking for a few answers to questions that I had, that I remembered that this was kind of like a philosophical exploration, and I kind of forgot that. So to really give this book a fair discussion, I would really need to read it again. But then, I'm not studying philosophy anymore. I can just get away with going, yeah, I've got the main idea, surely. Anyway, so this story is about a man whose name I can't pronounce. It's something along the lines of Meursault. Oh, wait, T's are silent in French. I can read in a couple of African languages. We're not holding French against me. But anyway, it starts off with his mom's death. And this man does not respond like one would expect a man to respond at the death of a parent. In fact, at one point I was wondering perhaps if he fell on the spectrum, if perhaps he had sociopathic tendencies and did not feel the same, or whether he was really a very good prime example of the stiff upper lip, where he wasn't going to show emotion, because the only emotion he shows is fatigue. But anyway, I'm kind of jumping ahead. So you have his mother's funeral, where he doesn't seem to be disturbed really or upset at all. He then the next day finds a girl and things get nice and steamy. He meets a man who he friends, who seems to be rather a despicable character, beats up his girlfriend, etc. And yeah, Marcel, well, the man with the name that I can't pronounce, he gets involved and helps this man by writing the letter, etc. I know I'm keeping this a bit vague, but anyway, after a long, well, it's not long at all, I mean, you can see this is tiny, but after a bit, this man manages to kill an Arab man on the beach. And you then go through the trial, and he's not really on trial for the murder, which would make sense. He ends up being on trial for not showing any sorrow at his mother's passing. And this is why he is deemed the outsider. I actually like that my book is called The Outsider and not The Stranger, because a stranger is somebody that you don't know, whereas an outsider is somebody, I think, with the connotations are slightly different, is somebody that you don't want to accept. It's somebody who's there, different from who we are. So I like that, and this is why he became, why it is called The Outsider. So this book explores the philosophy of the absurd, basically that there is no actual sequence of events, no purpose really to life, although one can find pleasure. It's something that I would really need to research a lot more if I wanted to. But yeah, I'm going to leave it at that for now. I think maybe in a couple of years I'll go back. I think a rereading of this would be a lot more beneficial for me now that I know where it is going. But I don't really feel driven to do that right now. The next book that I read was Shylock is My Name by Howard Jacobson. He is an author who has won the Booker Prize in the past, so I had high expectations going into this. Also, I've heard wonderful things about the Hogarth Shakespeare series, so I was rather disappointed. But let me start at the beginning. So this is a retelling in the way that I actually like retellings to be done. It's not The Merchant of Venice in modern English. Because let's face it, those books have been written. They're there for lazy students at school, or they're there for adults who don't feel like plowing through more complicated language. So I was very, very pleased about that. The story mimics, it mirrors the original, but not to the point where I knew exactly where I was. In fact, the story kind of takes place after The Merchant of Venice, although Strulovich, the character in this story, his storyline is very similar to Shylock's. Shylock is a character in the book, although I felt that he might have been an hallucination. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I kind of wondered if he was really there or not, because his presence seemed awkward. He was invited to Strulovich's house and he just kind of stayed. And it didn't really make much sense as far as that went. Strulovich's storyline does kind of similarly mirror Shylock's. He also has a daughter who's getting involved with a Christian guy, although I think that would even be a dubious title for that bloke. But the other side of the story, I really didn't like. The female with the ridiculous name, and I'm not even going to mention it because I didn't bother about remembering it, because every time I read it I could feel my blood pressure just spiking a little bit. That I felt was too cliched. She was a caricature of what we would consider a Hollywood stereotype. You know, the starlet, the plastic surgery, the house, the cars, the live show television production from her house, and I just really thought that was ridiculous. The man in her life had no personality. She might as well have been dating a Cupid statue for all I cared. Her friend Anton, he had a little bit more personality, but not really enough to keep me all that interested in him or to care about him in the slightest. And the guy that Beatrice, that is Strulovich's daughter, was seeing, yeah, the least I could say about him, the better. In fact, I don't know if I could say much about him, because he was just a very caricature of a thick jock. But overall, I liked it. Initially I liked the scenes with Strulovich and Shylock, because the conversation was interesting, but after a while I started to feel like I was reading a debate, and it didn't feel like a story. When it finally got back to the story, then I got interested again, but it took a while. I actually planned on abandoning it at one point, which is why I then can now go into what I'm currently reading. So I'm currently reading Wolf Hall by Hilary Mantel, which I picked up when I thought I was going to abandon Shylock as my name. And then when I decided that I should actually finish Shylock as my name, I then had the issue of going, oh hell, who the hell are all these people that I'm with now, because it was a few days later, and there are so many people that I read about on a daily basis. Let's just put it out there. But anyway, I'm really enjoying this. I'm finding it very strange to go from Thomas Cromwell in Dissolution to Thomas Cromwell in Wolf Hall. They seem to be quite different. Currently I'm rooting for Thomas Cromwell, although in Dissolution I thought he was rather a despicable human being. I have a funny feeling that that was more the accurate representation of what he did. But for now I'm going with this. I'm really enjoying it. Sean, thank you so much for the tip. It's helped a lot. The other book that I'm reading is The Marriage Plot by Jeffrey Eugenides, and I'm enjoying this one too, actually. It's reminiscent of my university days, where you have the pompous, precocious students who, you know, carry on like that. It was very much like my university days, and I must admit that I felt like the fish out of water and the really stupid person. But I'm kind of gathering from seeing the female in this from two perspectives that, yeah, I wasn't as stupid as I felt I was. Anyway, that is my weekly reads. I don't know what this week is going to bring, as it is a new school, new work environment, a whole new syllabus that I need to put together. Maybe, I don't know. I don't even know what literature they're doing yet. But time will tell. I should know by tomorrow, and if not by tomorrow, by Tuesday, because the kids come back on Wednesday. So that's going to be interesting. Other than that, I wish everyone a very good reading week. All the best. Bye for now.